It's been just over a year since former President Donald Trump was banned from a number of social media platforms. Facebook, Twitter, and others banned the former president for continuing to falsely claim the 2020 election was stolen, something he continues to assert while offering no proof. While social media platforms hoped sidelining Mr. Trump was a way to stop the spread of dangerous falsehoods, a number of people in the former president's circle say it has actually had the opposite effect. A new article by the Wall Street Journal suggests his lack of a social media presence has actually boosted support for the former president. Michael Bender is the author of that article and joins me now with more. Michael is a White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for joining us, Michael. So you write about the former president's favorability growing since his social media ban. So how might a social media blackout ultimately have helped Mr. Trump become more popular?
Yeah, his favorability has improved over the past year. You remember when he left office, it was in the wake of that the violent riots at the Capitol. More than 60% of the country said that they had an unfavorable view of then President Trump. Now, a year later, after a year on, without social media, that's down to about just over 50%. So about a 10% drop there, and now just over half the country. And what advisors to Trump tell me is that people seem to like the former president, the less they hear from him. What's happening here is he's effectively ceded the political spotlight to Joe Biden, who's had a lot of troubles, whether it be withdrawal from Afghanistan, the ongoing spread of COVID, some chaos within his party, trying to pass his domestic agenda on Capitol Hill. Meanwhile, there's no attention being given to, say, Trump picking a fight with B or C-list celebrities out in Hollywood. If you recall, even early in his administration, his supporters said that maybe he should kind of tone down his presence on social media a little bit. So all those things combined, again, this is coming from Mar-a-Lago, from the people that are closest to Trump, have resulted in a pretty good swing for Trump when it comes to public opinion polls.
But it's interesting, though, because while Mr. Trump may be banished from some social media, the claims that got him booted remain, notably the disproven idea of widespread election fraud in the 2020 election. So, Michael, if Mr. Trump was kicked off social media for these claims, under what premise are other users still allowed to perpetuate those same claims?
Well, it's interesting. I found that while Facebook and Twitter and some of these companies have banned Trump the person from social media and stopped people from using his likeness, his image, recordings of his voice, footage of him, they will take advertising money from Donald Trump's political committee, the committee that is raising money for Trump and his political activities. Has bought ads on Facebook asking the question, is Trump the true president? Asserting that 2020 may have been the most corrupt election in history, when we obviously know Trump's own administration said otherwise, said that 2020 was the most secure election in our history. Trump's political committee is using these things to raise money, as are other groups, Democrats and Republicans. Democrats are pointing this out, saying Trump is still a threat trying to raise money. Elise Stefanik, who received a leadership position in House among House Republicans based on her defense of Trump, used that on social media, saying she stood up for election integrity, which is kind of a key word for Trump supporters, election integrity. And now she's under attack. Donate $5, $10, $15 to help her fight back, that sort of thing. So we're seeing a lot of those claims, maybe not as directly as Trump said them on Twitter, and as directly as Trump said them, and which got him removed ultimately from Twitter. But still, that same idea is certainly being perpetuated out there by Trump's committee on advertisements.
So as you just spelled out, Michael, social media has taken on an increasing role in the electoral process, with massive amounts of money spent on ad buys. I mean, as you spelled out in your article, millions and millions of dollars. How might a continued ban for Mr. Trump factor into any future political campaigns that he might run?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this is the ban for the past year has kind of been good for, if it's good for Trump, it's been good for the companies as well. They can kind of beat their chest a little bit and say that they took action, that there was a threat, and a one of their top users perpetuating misinformation, and they were able to crack down on that. I think it's going to be definitely something to watch for this next year, and whether Trump decides to run for president. That's going to increase the pressure quite a bit on some of these social media companies to reinstall him, to give him back his platform. Facebook has already said they're going to revisit the issue in early 2023, which will be after the midterm elections, and we'll probably know whether Trump is running for president or not by then. Other executives have said that they're not going to be swayed by Trump's decision one way or the other, and that's a very good PR move and smart thing to say publicly. But it is going to be much more difficult to keep him off as if he is the nominee for one of America's major political parties.
And in our final minute or so, I've got a twofer for you, Michael. What is the very latest, first of all, on President Trump's lawsuit against those social media companies that banned him? And also, we've heard about these platforms, Parler and Getter, which are really aimed at those on the right and really catering to those on the right. How influential are those social media platforms?
Yeah, well, the lawsuit, it was Trump sued Facebook and some of these other companies trying to restore his presence online. That's been moved out of South Florida, where Trump lives now, to Northern California, where most of these companies are stationed and headquartered, and that's still working through the legal process here. And the social media companies, the Parlers of the world and these kind of conservative networks. What they are, in a sense, Trump is not participating in them yet, but he has plenty of surrogates on here, sort of, preaching the gospel of Trumpism, if you will, and that's effectively kept the base informed or misinformed, as it might be, but certainly riled up and activated, waiting, for Trump to decide whether to run for president. And before I sign off here, I will just share you a quick story of Trump's social media. I interviewed him. I wrote a book that came out this summer called "Frankly, We Did Win This Election: The Inside Story of How Trump Lost." And I interviewed Trump down in Mar-a-Lago, and one of the moments I almost fell out of the couch there in Mar-a-Lago was when he told me he was glad to be off Twitter. Effectively told me that it had been kind of a time suck for him as president, and taken away the time he would otherwise have spent reading books or newspapers or thinking about things, and got him in a lot of trouble retweeting people he didn't know. And at that moment, which was in March of last year, he was surprised me by saying he was glad to not have that hanging over his head. And certainly, something we might not be able to relate to being president, but certainly we can all understand the idea of these social media apps being a suck on our time.
Well, that is very true. Interesting anecdote. Michael Bender. Michael, thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.